The first one is trustworthiness. There must be trust between the teacher, either in the informal or formal setting, and the student. There must be mutual respect. The teacher, either parents or teachers in the school setting, must respect the pupil, and the pupil must respect the parents. There must be responsibility. You must be responsible for every action that you take. Then there must be fairness. What do I mean by fairness? Even as a parent, if you are not fair in your relationship with your children, it could lead to sibling rivalry. The same thing with your students that you teach. If you have favorites in class, you might end up having a crisis of classroom management, because the other students will feel that since that person is your favorite, then they don't have any business with you, and they rebel in your class. And I know that for those of you who studied education, classroom management is something that is very critical for your achievement of your goals, your teaching goals in class. Then caring. Parents care for their children. Teachers are in loco parentis to their students also. You know, that element of care has to be embedded in education for there to be solid character molding and character formation. One other one that is critical, which I see that is very lacking in our space, is citizenship. I'm sad to say that for me, I see many of us Nigerians, young and old, as being seriously unpatriotic. We are not good citizens. Citizenship is akin to the loyalty your pet dog gives to you as a person. I remember one incident. An aged woman fell down, and the dog kept on calling attention until somebody came to help the woman. The woman eventually passed on, but that dog slept on her grave for 6 months, sun and rain. And that is the kind of feeling we should have for our nation. Citizenship, we should own it. If you study other countries, other economies, other continents, the Americans, for instance, they take their country first. They dare not toy with their country. If you kill an American citizen, you're going to have a lot to pay for it. So I am saying in essence that there are pillars of character building that we must inculcate in our students. And these are things that, one, we learn and we also grow with. I told you that education is both formal and informal, and you have to start imbibing these things from home. One area where the education sector has failed and where we blame teachers for is actually the fault of parents and caregivers. Because when teachers are doing their bit in their classes, there must be corresponding attention to those students at home. Once the parents don't do their part, there's a lacuna, there's a gap, and the children exploit that gap. I want to agree totally that education is a propeller for sustainable character. If character development has not been inculcated in a scholar, a student, or a child from the outset, you will discover that it's going to affect the educational output of that child. And eventually, when we grow and become part of the economy, part of the political space, part of the workforce, we discover that things like corruption, tardiness, lack of accountability, fraud, and so on and so forth, as a result of poor character formation. There is something I learned called the 3H. The 3H is holistic education. Holistic education has to do with the education of the head, of the heart, and of the hands. It's a variant of Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, where your emotive skills, your psychomotor skills, and your recall skills are all brought to the fore. Your cognitive skills are all brought to the fore. And these are skills that we must continue to help our young people gather. That is to say, in school, schools now get a lot more to mow the field. They get laborers to till the school garden and things like that. I want to say that making students do those things is not punishment. It's part of their formation. Where I work, history tells me that many of the buildings, the blocks were made by students. The bread in the bakery used to be made by students. The lemonade and so many other things that are sold in that space were made by students, and they were graded. They were given credit for it. Some were paid for it, and it formed part of their school fees. And if you study those people today, you see a lot of industry in what they do. Unfortunately, we have situations now where parents, instead of helping their children to form these character traits, even come to schools to fight teachers, to fight authorities. And then children are no longer allowed to have a mind of their own or do what they have to do. And I want to say again, unequivocally, that it's not for lack of trying, because governments over the year globally have attempted to create a space where character and education go pari passu. I watched a video yesterday where the president of one African country was beating one of his ministers. What did the minister do? The minister stole money meant for COVID-19 palliatives and other things. In a world that is ravaged by unknown elements, and government votes money, and your character formation from the outset does not tell you that it is wrong for you to steal, talk less of stealing money meant for the health of your people, and you claim to be a leader. So definitely something is wrong. You know, the United Nations formulated 17 sustainable development goals. We used to have Millennium Development Goals, but they formulated 17 sustainable development goals. And the first one is eradication of poverty. If you're in your comfort zone, you will not know that when you go around the country, you will see people eating from dustbins. It's a reality. You see people living in slums. Go to Makoko, you know what I'm talking about. You travel towards Benin City, you see leper colony begging to feed. So poverty is the number one sustainable development goal. The second one after poverty is zero hunger. Hunger. Food for all. Everybody must be fed. That is why during the outset of COVID-19, with the hardship that it brought about, government tried to provide palliatives, no matter how little. It was an attempt, but it was also part of the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is why those attempts to give palliatives were supported by international organizations. It's also a purely Nigerian thing where the government will put down money, but international organizations supported that. The third one is good health. Health for all. Provision of primary health care centers, basic amenities, and so on. So water, running water and stuff like that. Then the fourth one is education, quality education. And I want to say, without fear of contradiction, that character development is part of good quality education. And that is why when the curriculum for schools were modified, new courses were brought into the curriculum so that students learning can get to imbibe some of these things. Trade courses, for instance, animal husbandry, and skate and cat, and so on. Then civic education. Civic education. And I want to propose also that history must be returned to the schools. History. Our people don't have a sense of history. If you don't know where you are coming from, you don't know where you are going. For instance, in the recent times, there have been drums of war. People want to fight. They want to divide the country and cause trouble. I thank God I was born before the Civil War. And I know what happened during the Civil War. But if you are not born then, and you didn't learn history in school, I think you should learn history. History is a very good teacher. And I'm saying unequivocally that a sense of history will also help in our development. Now, you cannot give what you do not have. In Nigeria today, we are very high on the corruption index. We are very high on the poverty index.
James.
Hello.
James, what's happening?
I can't hear Dr. Adebua too.
I guess it's network.
So
Probably is
as we are waiting to join up.
Okay, so what should we do?
I like just wait for him. That is network.
Dr. Adebua, if you can hear us, please. We're waiting for you, sir. We can't hear you. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, James, if you can hear me, please chat me. Hello, James.
Hello.
Yes. Can you check your chat again, please?
Okay, I think we should just interact briefly about things that he has been trying to explain. Talk about
Hello, sir.
All right. So, Dr. Adebua, and leadership. You understand very well that that is one of the things, essential things we lack in Africa, especially in the leadership space. From Cairo to Cape Town, from Conakry to Nairobi, these are the issues that we face generally as Africans. And it's not of today, although presently we think it has increased, it is considerably affecting us negatively. And that has a top-bottom effect. From the top, it gets damaged, and then it has a ripple effect on people at the bottom of the ladder, I mean, the general population, like the Pacific. That's why Dr. Adebua mentioned patriotism. For citizens to be patriotic, there are two things that are responsible for that, from what I got, from what was explained, especially when you mentioned the sustainable goals of the United Nations, which previously was the NDG. Now, it was talking about patriotism, and I can understand that there are many young people who seem to have forgotten about what it means to be loyal to the country. And a lot of us really want to leave the country, want to travel, and never remember. In fact, it has gone beyond that. A lot of people issue courses on the country on a daily basis because they feel frustrated, and it is unabated and remains that way. Also, the economic situation. However, that is not the only problem we face, because eventually there is upward mobility of normal citizens of the ladder. The leadership is drawn from citizenry. So there is now how you want to produce great leaders or leaders who have the interests of the country at heart and educate the population first. So it's like what I call qualifier of action. And I believe that Dr. Adebua is going to touch on that, on how to move ourselves from such a confusing situation. Just like that.
Hello, I'm back on.
Okay.
Hello, host.
Please proceed, sir.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yes, I can hear you too, sir.
Okay, that's good. I can hear you very well now. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just tripped off.
Yeah, it might be the network.
I switched network to prepare. So, like I was saying, the Sustainable Development D15, and they're expected to be achieved by 2030. But it's unfortunate, Nigeria has Vision 2022 for Millennium Development Goals, but this 2020, I cannot say proudly we have achieved any of them. There have been attempts by some state governments, but it is the internet is a bit unstable, but I don't know if you can see me very well.
Can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay. So, what do we do? What is the panacea? What is the way out so that character formation will be part of our educational development? I think government has started in the right direction by first of all adopting the global sustainable development goals and adapting it to our own local peculiarities. Secondly, the revival of certain subjects in the school curriculum is also very laudable. What remains is training and retraining of personnel. I work in an establishment that is faith-based, and caring for our students, their needs, understanding them, and being like parents to them in the real sense is part of what we do. But at the public school sector, we sometimes tend to blame the teachers or the administrators because we don't understand the problem. You know, how can a teacher care one-on-one for students when he has 100, 150 in his class? Ideally, there shouldn't be more than 30 students in a class to help the teacher give personal touch. You see, when the teacher shows love to the students, they in return show that kind of love to others as they grow, and it helps the nation to develop. But until that is done, it's going to be very difficult for us to achieve the goals as set out by the United Nations. Then another issue is our constant policy somersault. I can't clearly say what system of education we are running now. I know we are doing 6334, and we moved on to 934. I don't know where we are now. And what I've discovered is that any minister that comes into office tries to develop his own for personal reasons, for personal, glory, rather than a long-term project where the rolling plans will continue to follow them up and ensuring that they are achieved. Look at the present government. They've nearly finished building all the rail lines, and they were not the ones that started it. That is what governance is a continuum. So when there's a break in the education of people, it's difficult for them to imbibe that character. Where I come from Ekiti, by the way, if you have not exhibited good character in your community, in your family, they don't put you forward for any position, either political or community. If you have been known to have stolen, you don't get anything. If you have been known to have been adulterous, you don't get anything. If you have been known to do things that are antithetical to the community, you don't get anything. So, and up till now, right from 1947 to present, I have some families in my community that are still suffering for the misdeeds of their forebears. Until we mete out adequate sanctions on people who have refused to allow themselves to be molded character in our educational system, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think I'll pause here since it's a webinar, so that others can lend their voice to the discourse we've had so far. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The host.
Over to you, Mr. Jojo. Mr. Jeremy, if you can hear us, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Jeremy.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in the background.
Sorry, just okay.
Okay.
If you can hear me now, James.
If you can hear me now, James. Can you?
I can hear you, Mr. Jeremy.
All right. Because we malfunction here. Now, before we go to the other section, I want to ask one particular question. When Dr. Adebo was the hand dropped, the line.
I'm not hearing you.
May I suggest that every other person mutes? May I suggest that everyone mutes except the host and myself responding? When you want to talk, you unmute yourself.
Hear me now, sir. Can you hear me now, sir?
It's still a bit woozy.
Okay, are you with me, Dr. Adebo?
If you can hear me, I can't hear you well. Maybe you type the question. I will respond from the chat.
Please, can you check around you, Joe,
Okay,
and
that's
see
good.
if
That's good.
there's anything
I can
making
hear
noise
you
around
well
you?
now. There's something making noise.
Good. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Joe. You may proceed now.
Please go ahead now.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Jeremy.
Hello?
Can you please leave the meeting and join again so we can hear you better? Please try and leave the meeting then join again. We'll hold on for you for a minute. While we're waiting for Mr.
Hello?
Ojazurami.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome back. You may
Hello? Can you
proceed,
hear me?
please. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can. Wow.
We can hear you, Mr. Ojazurami. We can hear us. We can hear you.
Press the muting.
All right, while we wait for Mr. Ojazurami, the topic is still education as propeller of sustainable character, the Nigerian situation. And thank you very much for giving us a breakdown of the topic, Dr. Adebua. It's been a very interesting and interactive one. So I just want to ask this question, sir, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, can we say that the problem with uh, uh, can we say that the problems with the characters of our leaders in this country could be the fact that they did not get the right education? That's my first question. The two is, can we can we also say that maybe because our leaders have gotten too much education. Maybe that's why we do not have the right development we do have today, or maybe because they were not given the right education. I mean, which would you say is the problem of this
Okay.
of our leaders in this country?
Okay. I'm going to blow your mind by my very next statement.
Please do so.
You know, we were colonized by the British,
Yes, sir.
and apparently, to most Africans and Nigerians, we feel that they are better than we are. I'm able to say that they are not. The seed of corruption and unethical behavior was sown by the colonial masters. As a student of literature and history, I know that when Nigerians were planting cocoa beans, groundnuts, and oil palm, it was the European administrators who taught our people how to weigh the cocoa beans and put something under so it will weigh more than it actually weighs. So,
Oh,
so I cannot say that they gave us the best education. Secondly, British education does not really make you very independent. British education does not make you very independent. It is centered on the teacher. But modern education should be student-centered, allowing students to do things by themselves and for themselves with guidance. But a teacher-centered learning brings about the kind of growth that we probably are experiencing with the leaders we have now. The student-centered learning makes the students do things for themselves, and then they are guided by the teacher. But the teacher-centered learning is a thing whereby it's whatever the teacher says that you have to do. So there's no measure of attempting and making errors and being corrected. Then, of course, in those days when we were in school, you read for your whole session and do one exam in June. Just regurgitate everything that they have been taught. So there was really no hands-on knowledge. And I think it was deliberate because the British did not plan to leave Nigeria when they left. So if they didn't teach you how to fish, there's a tendency that you continue to go back to them for fish. So I think then, at that time, the kind of education they gave us produced the kind of people we are today. That's my answer.
all right. There's a question here for you, sir,
Yes.
which I would read out to you. The question says, what do you think we can do to improve the standard of education in Nigeria? That's the first question. So,
Okay. The
and the second one says, what advice can you give to the government in Nigeria to make education more suitable, more sustainable in Nigeria? What advice can you give to the government in Nigeria to make education more sustainable in Nigeria?
the two questions are related. The first thing that we need to do in Nigeria to improve the quality of education and make it more sustainable is budgetary allocation. The UNESCO has prescribed that 26% of annual budget should be for education. But go and check last year's budget for education and health. It's a pittance. It's nothing to write home about. So if you don't fund education, you can't have sustainable education. Funding is key. That is one. Secondly, there must be continuous training. Some state governments are trying, but you have to train and retrain and retrain. Thank God we're in the world where the internet has made the world a global village and the world knowledge economy has shrunk. If you don't even improve yourself, you will discover that your students are ahead of you. So government must present an enabling environment and should not pay lip service to it. Because I know some governments try to do that, providing tablets and so on and so forth, and made a lot of media razzmatazz about it. But go to those states today, those things are not functioning. So it's clear that funding is number one. Funding. And the second thing is to develop homemade curriculum. One of the Scandinavian countries, they designed their curriculum in a way that between the age of 2 and 9, students attend school, but they don't take any exam. And it's working for them. I think Denmark or Norway, I can't remember which of the countries. They don't do any exam at all. At that age, they believe that students should just go and enjoy learning. They go to school, do artwork, go into the garden, go into the playground, go on tours and excursions, and learn about life generally. In some concrete jungles like New York, children have not seen house fly, or cockroach, or house rat. They've not seen grasshoppers unless they see them in the laboratory. And you see, the best teacher any person can have is nature. If you're not close to nature, you don't learn. So we need to redesign our curriculum, to be deliberate about it. What do we need as a people? I think there should be a summit of people in the educational sector, and I think there should be a national emergency on education. That is where the gap is. Once we bridge this gap, things are going to be much better. Because if we don't work on education, this country is going nowhere. That's my take.
All right, thank you, sir. There's a hand here from Emmanuel Mark. We'll take your question, please. Emmanuel Mark, please go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The question is, following by the theme, like the theme for the program, how can sustainable education, if well achieved, how can it help to mitigate the challenges faced by Nigeria, Sub-Saharan Africa? That's my question, sir.
Okay, thank you. You know, it's saddening when you see young Nigerians trying to go to Europe through Libya. There's a large back. Someone, please let us mute. So you only on mute when you are speaking. Thank you. You see our people dying in Libya, in Spain, because they are trying to go abroad for greener pastures. And I think in the course of my earlier presentation, I talked about national orientation and citizenship. We need to have a culture where we are proud of who we are proud of our nation, and the nation in return gives back to us by providing basic amenities of life. As I stand before you today, I will not relocate to any country outside Nigeria. I can visit and come back because no knowledge is lost. But for me to say I'm relocating to America or UK or anywhere, I've gone past that. I will not. And until you start having a sense of patriotism as Africans, you remember Robert Mugabe, Muammar Gaddafi, Thomas Sankara, M.K. Abiola, and Nelson Mandela. They try to inculcate in us a sense of pride and dignity as African people. You know, our Yorubas have been saying that a dry morsel taken in peace is better than the most sumptuous meal taken with pain and suffering. What is the essence of going to Italy for prostitution? Because you want a better life. What is the essence of trying to travel by land and by boat to Europe, where eventually you lose your life on the way? So the key is education. And I've said it again, again, you can Google after this webinar and check for the past 10 years how much this nation and the continent of Africa has devoted to education. You find that we're only paying lip service to it. Until we fund education, provide infrastructure, equip laboratories, help for hands-on learning, it's going to be very hard. At the tertiary level, you know, people go for industrial training. A few years back, about 10 years back, I was part of a seminar where we proposed that teachers should also go for for that kind of introductory training, that teachers in technology, science, and so on. Because the teacher must know the needs in the industry to be able to come and teach the students. So once they don't know industrial needs, it could be very hard for them to. It's just this idea of a professor repeating the notes he wrote in 1975 for students in class cannot get us anywhere. So we need to be deliberate about education. That is my point.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the answers you gave to those questions. Now, I was saying that while you were talking, what is really your presentation?
I didn't get that.
While you were giving your presentation, sir.
Yeah.
You mentioned patriotism and how education. I want to ask if that is not expected of people belligerent by poverty.
Okay.
About 75% of Nigerians are poor, so if you feel that the country is not giving to them and is demanding from them, they tend to become combative. And a lot of people have their minds already removed from the country. And if we're talking about education as well, it's certain percentage I can't really place now because we don't really have enough data in Nigeria to determine that. But a certain percentage of Nigeria, very substantial, do not have access to education. So how do we bring this culture of patriotism into people who are not well educated and in a country where even the leaders are not patriotic enough?
Okay, I didn't hear you very well, but I picked a little bit of what you said. If I'm hitting it, let me know. The first thing is you talked about poverty in relation to access to education. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I talked about policy. We have to take education to the people where they are. And to do that, it must be properly funded. During the time of Goodluck Jonathan, in an attempt to curb this Almajiri system, because that's itinerant education. He tried to build Almajiri schools. I think he built 112 in parts of the north. Although those schools, nothing is happening there now. And then he also went and built some federal universities, about 12 of them also, to bring education to the people. Because the Almajiri system is itinerant. They even move about with their teachers, begging for food and learning Arabic and Islamic education, and they sleep where they could sleep. But when government now deliberately built schools for them, the idea was that they would go there and learn for free. So I'm an advocate of free education from primary to GS3, free. You know, when you finish GS3, you can go to vocational school or go ahead to senior secondary school and then probably to tertiary institution. But if you finish GS3, the level of education that you're going to have is enough for you to learn a trade. So, which means that the government should also build more technical colleges. So that people, there's no reason if you're able to do electrical work, you go to university to go and study archaeology and some other courses like that. So we know people are poor, and access to education is not going to be easy for poor people, but it is the duty of government to provide. And you and I know that Nigeria is rich. We are blessed if we apply our resources to the right direction. I don't know if that answers your question. That's the part
to an extent. I still want to come back to the question of patriotism.
I have a question.
Sorry, my challenge is that I didn't hear you well. I just picked a little bit of what you said. That's what I answered.
Good evening, doctor.
Good evening.
My hands have been up for the past 10-15 minutes, but the moderator did not pick it up. Yeah. So since the moderator refused to speak, I think I have to take apology for interruption. Do I have the floor, sir?
Okay, sorry about that.
Are you with me, doctor?
I'm with you. Moderator, please.
Yeah, I have. You really hit. In fact, let me first of all thank you for the awesome presentation this evening. That was a wonderful one. You really hit two things that really box on my mind, but you did hit it well. Funding as number one factor for sustainable education in Nigeria. I want you to please open it up on the other side. The other side of funding in Nigeria is corruption. I have been with UBEC for the past 6-7 years on a project now. And we picked 4 states as a case study. I will just mention the state in which I come from, Lagos, and the local government in which I am. We're able to monitor the fund and we'll track it. The four states now, if not for this COVID, we're supposed to go to other states to see how they are doing with this funding. Initially, we believe Nigeria is not funding education very well. But when we get to UBEC headquarters, we discovered that for education, there is a very huge budget for it every year. And there is money in that account that even state governments are not accessing. Are we together, sir?
I'm with you.
I'm just specific about UBEC now. About UBEC. I know each state government will provide a counterpart fund, I think about 1.75 billion, and federal government through UBEC will fund the other part. Now, when we go to UBEC headquarters, we discover that there are some states in the last 8 years, they are yet to access these funds, and the funds are there with UBEC headquarters. Before now, we discovered that banks, all these governors, they just go to the banks, they meet them, they do a pally talk, and they will release the fund for them. They will drop the counterpart fund, and they will collect the fund to finance their political what have you, instead of using that fund for what it meant to be, which is education. Now, sir, with this corruption, what do you think we can do? What do you think we can do as a country? Because without education, we are going nowhere. Nigeria is going nowhere. That is one, about corruption. Then secondly, which organization is going to call that summit? You know, you mentioned educational summit for all stakeholders. Then which organization will be responsible for that? Is it Ministry of Education? Is it school-based management committee? As in the parents, because look at this COVID issue that happened now. If you look at it, it has been government. Even the parents, they have not come out. Even Nigeria Student Association, none. They are not saying anything. And this thing is coming back to us, the parents and the students. Everything is pushed to the government. Where exactly is the role of the parents? The students now. Can you get my question, sir?
I got it. Can I respond?
You have the floor, sir.
Okay, I will start from your second question, or your second statement question. That summit is going to be organized in a multi-sectoral manner. That's why I use the word stakeholders. Both organized labor, government, the National Press Association, National Association of Nigerian Students, and NGOs. You might want to ask that who bears the cat, who takes the lead. The first thing is to write to the National Assembly. Are you getting it? And the House Committee on Education will provide a platform and then ensure that every sector is represented. It's a frank talk among all of everybody knows where the truth is, and we know where the truth is. That is one. In terms of funding, I agree with you in total that governments are not accessing the funds as they should, and it's because of corruption. But I still want to maintain, first and foremost, that 6.7% of national budget in 2020 for education is grossly inadequate. Now, I thank you that you still came back to the issue of corruption because it is the kernel of this webinar. Character formation. You can't give what you don't have. Corruption will not stop unless there is national reorientation. I'm surprised that when government puts forward policy, there's no deliberate attempt for National Agency to educate the people. And that is why you have false news, false stuff on media, and so on and so forth. Because you need to educate the people. If you don't give me information, I can guess. If you don't give information, I make assumptions. So the issue is that until we, the curriculum formulators, even understand why we are placing certain subjects in the curriculum, like civic education, we are paying lip service to it. It should be a condition for admission anywhere in Nigeria. I get it. Not just the credit worth of it, but the way it is taught, the way it is developed, is an avenue for us to get our people, the next generation, to have a sense of proprietorship, trust, honesty, integrity. Integrity. If you don't have integrity, there's nothing you cannot do. We have seen in this country people stealing money that 10 generations of their children cannot spend, and where others are wallowing in poverty. And when they come to meet them, they only come to public space to donate for showmanship. So, sir, corruption is a canker worm, I agree. For character formation, character building is the answer to that. And you know, it is when government discovered that there is a problem that we went back to revise the curriculum. Why would the prime minister of the country ride bicycle to his office? When you look at the chairman, we go with a convoy of 10 cars. And you may be able to want to feel that politics is the quickest way to wealth. So it's national orientation. When will I take sachet water and throw the sachet from the window of my car onto the road? Character formation. Why will an accident happen and I will not park my car to help the victim? Character formation. The thuggery, the banditry, the terrorism in the country. Those who are, engaged in it, it's because of character formation. And education is the answer to all those things. Education is the answer to corruption. That is my take.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, Doctor, you put a question back to me, the question that I gave to you, sir. I can see Phoenix Royal Foundation, they are with us on this platform today. And if I can see from this, I can see that it's a collection of youths, which I believe should be a body that can speak, as we say now, that can come up with a webinar, stakeholders webinar. Because what I discover in this country now is this: somebody has to be there for us. They have to hear these things in government. That is it. If you are waiting for government for this to, they will do it. But we are the ones suffering it. I'm requesting if the Royal Foundation can still look around it and come up with another webinar. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree with you, sir. They're a growing foundation, and I know as they grow, they're going to expand the scope. I'm certain about that because I know some of the people involved with this.
Please stop.
Whatever not speak for them, you are there, you can speak for yourself.
All right. Everyone. Yes. All right. I love the suggestion. Very beautiful. In fact, my hands have been up. I was going to ask a question which was in the direction of the path
sorry to call me again.
the foundation.
Doctor, are you with me, doctor?
Hello.
Hello, doctor.
Hold on, sir. He's responding to you. Hold on, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah. So at the foundation, now looking at what the doctor said initially, one thing we've been trying to grapple upon is, the link between sustainable education and free education. Now that sustainability and that free education, it being free. In fact, our human mindset, especially here in Africa, there's got to the point where it feels like when something is free, there's no quality attached to it. Yeah, so I think it gets difficult because even the government today, we have the UBE and some other government, federal colleges of learning, federal high schools that are providing free education, but with not quality, So although at Finished Royal Foundation, part of our long-term target, which is what I guess was going to be said after the end of this webinar, if not before, because we have this plan of having this school. Because some of the people who really need this education are people who cannot afford it. Can you hear me? Like some of the people who need this education are people who cannot afford it. And some of those are all roaming about in the streets, carrying pure water on their heads, hawking and selling. If you've ever interacted with some of those people, they have hidden potential that, if well launched out into the world of leadership, will make the world a better place, even beginning from here in Nigeria. And part of the reason why this webinar, what inspired this webinar was some of the problems happening within the lockdown period. Some of the issues we have in leadership today, especially here in Africa, as rated as the most corrupt nation in the world, is that we have people who are not just that they aren't educated, but some of these people went through education, went through the 4 walls of the university or classroom. Some of them are educated, but without morality instilled in education, and that better that sustainable education tools for mitigating Nigeria's sub-Saharan African challenges. So we are looking at how morality, virtues, character can be integrated in education and learning, integrated with learning, and also be passed to these young people from their childhood, into the university stage at almost free and very affordable. In fact, one of our long-term goals is the project we call Street to Classroom, which will be kicking off. The launching will be somewhere between next year and thereabouts. And the plan of this project will be having a school that is up to standard, international standard, where young people will be brought not just from the streets, from different walks of learning. Even if you can afford the education, and if you cannot afford the education, look at how we could solve for this funds and make the education almost free. Those people who cannot afford it are being given this education at a free rate. While those people who can afford to pay for quality education can pay, and as what we look at how those can be integrated and used to help those people who cannot afford it. I don't know if this point is well understood. Like, try looking at part of the things we are setting out to do. So the project will be tagged Street to Classroom. That is getting those people who are out there in the street. In fact, after this webinar series, yes, some more will be coming up from now. This is just the first season, which has to do with general public. And just like you suggested, getting the stakeholders of the foundation and some people of great potential and some of our sponsors together to come deliberate on some of our plans. Just immediately after this webinar series, that is first season, this last episode, we'll be launching out the project, which will be test running that Street to Classroom. And this would be some of those people who have been shortchanged by the coronavirus pandemic, who cannot go back to school. We are
Hello, Mark Emmanuel.
Uh,
Can't hear you.
James,
Hello, Mr.
oh,
Jordan.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. I think Mark, I couldn't get what Mark is saying again.
Yeah, I think he has made his point. Oh, okay.
Okay, fine. So, in the absence of other questions, so I can't see anybody indicating. I think I'll just call on Mr. Olarewaju Olushola. Zero.
I'm not sure he's here now. Mr.
I can't find him.
Olanwaju, are you in the house? Okay, he's not here.
Let me personally thank Dr. Adebua for that very enlightening presentation. I would also like to probably consult you privately regarding matters on the education sector. So, in the absence of Mr. Olarewaju, James, can you give the vote of thanks?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, please go ahead.
Principal of Glendale Adventist Academy, United States, Dr. Israel Olara. Adebua, who's the head of department for languages and literary studies, Babcock University. It's an honor to hear you speak to us about sustainable education, sir. We've been blessed and we've really learned a lot through your experience and the well-researched presentation. Thank you for sharing with us your from your fountain of knowledge. And I'm sure that for everyone who has joined the webinar today, we've learned one thing or the other. And just like Mr. Mark Emmanuel said, we'll come up with other webinars after this. And we hope that you'd also do well to join us to share with us your opinion so that together we can move on the education sector of this great country, Nigeria. And special thanks to everyone who has joined this webinar from the first series till now. Thank you to all our friends. Thank you to all our community members. For those who are just hearing about Phoenix Royal Foundation, this is a foundation uh, equipped with the idea of giving off education, bringing education to all, and that's following the sustainable education goal for education for all. And just like Mr. Mark Emmanuel said in his speech earlier, would be would come up with a program from street to classroom, bringing in people who do not have access to education, be it free or paid, whatever, for them to have access to education free. And we'll be test running that this year by the grace of God before December. And we hope that you would lend your support and as you give in whatever means you have, so that together we can uh, give the opportunity of having good education in this country so that we can be more inclined knowledgeable, can produce more youths who would understand what is needed to be done in the society so that the future of this country would be ascertained. Thank you very much. Mr. Olanwaju Shola is the CEO and the president of this foundation. He's unavoidably absent and he sends his regards to everyone. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. It's an honor to host you all. Till next time that we come your way again, we want to say a big thank you to you. And thank you to our moderator from the first series, Dr. Jonathan Dangana, who's a public health expert and from the public health department of Babcock University. He's also currently not available for the chairman of and the board of trustee of the foundation, Dr. Williams, who joined us last week and the week before. she's not here today too because she's busy. We really want to appreciate you. And thank you very much, Mr. Joderemi, for hosting this webinar today. Mr. Joderemi is a former SCG president for the University of Ibadan. And it's an honor to have you host this webinar. And thank you also for hosting the webinar last week too. We really appreciate you. And we hope that when next we call upon you again, you would be there to answer us. Thank you very much, everyone. And we really want to say a big thank you to you. Please watch out for the next events to come up. You can follow us on Facebook at Phoenix Royal Foundation, same as Twitter, Phoenix Royal Foundation, also on Instagram as Phoenix Royal Foundation, or you can visit our website www.phoenix uh, phoenix-royalfoundation.org, www.phoenix-royalfoundation.org. And please do well to send us any of your message or suggestions to us on any of our social media platforms. You can as well follow us on LinkedIn too, to please keep up with all of our updates. Thank you very much. And this is where we end the webinar for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.